and welcome. This video is the first in a series on elemental theory within the context of tarot and astrology. In this first video, I'll provide a brief overview of how the tarot is organized within the major and minor arcana. And here I will explain the function and the qualities of the basic elemental associations of each suit of card. And towards the end, I'll give you my own thoughts on the tarot, which is ultimately coming to tarot with a mindfulness-based perspective. So if you need to jump ahead, just check the description for the different areas and time markers. So while this video is primarily focused on the tarot, learning the elemental foundations can be very helpful in understanding astrological synastry and basic chart interpretation. So let's just quickly review the basics of tarot. So what is tarot? Well, it's a dense system of symbols delivered in card form, which can be used as a transformational tool for spiritual growth and divination. Totaling 78 cards, there are two main groups within the deck. That's the 56 minor arcana, or called pip cards, and then there are 22 major arcana, otherwise known as the 22 keys. The minor arcana are mainly expressions of life's day-to-day struggles and victories, whereas the major arcana cards are expressions of archetypes that we emulate throughout major stages of our lives. The 22 cards in the major arcana show us the journey of the Fool, or the journey of the soul towards enlightenment. These archetypes express major lessons and energies that we cycle through on a core level. They are the keys to the self, keys to awareness. And that's why they're called the keys. So once again, we have the major arcana and the minor arcana within the 78 tarot system. So let's look here how the cards are organized. If you think about your average deck of household playing cards, they're organized into 4 suits. These are, your diamonds, your spades, clubs, and hearts. And they range from 1 to 10, and then they go into the court cards of the Jack, Queen, and King. So each card grows in power through the metaphor based on the old monarchy system of royalty. So we actually find the same organizational system in the tarot's minor arcana as well. They are organized the same way by their suit, which instead of spades or diamonds, we have wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. So just like in your standard deck of playing cards, these suits are numbered from 1 to 10, and then after 10, they move up into the subdivision of court cards of royalty, from the page to the knight, to the queen, and finally to the king. So that's probably the easiest way to look at that organization. See them as a family of suits ranging from 1 to 10, so that's the ace, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10, and then up through the court rankings from page to king. So with that explanation of the organization out of the way, let's get into the elements. With the tarot, it's important to know that these suits correspond to elements such as fire, water, air, and earth. And this association draws upon symbolism from elemental theory, where each element has characteristics and qualities that help us to identify the areas of life that the cards are speaking to. And elemental theories can be traced back thousands and thousands of years, and most famously, they are used today in traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, Tibetan medicine, Tibetan Buddhism. So elemental theory helps us define balance through harmonizing, these energetic elements and these imbalances. So at the end of the day, just like with our health or these different medical systems, with these cards, the goal in reading them is to help harmonize yourself and others through reflection. So It's important to view the elements as critical factors in reading tarot or astrology in a mindful and compassionate way. So not only do we look at what is there in the spread of cards, but we also look at what elements are missing. So if you have a reading where you have a ton of cups and a ton of wands, but no swords, no pentacles, that's important to note, and that'll be clear in a moment. So at this point, we know that the suits of the tarot are the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles. And we understand that each suit corresponds to an element, and that each element has a unique set of qualities, characteristics, behaviors, predispositions, constitutional presentations, and these traits speak to the nature of the element and its state of balance. So let's go into these elemental associations. So starting with the wands, they're associated with the element of fire. So wands are really all about passion, zeal, creativity, instinct, inspiration, and ideas. The creative fire. So visualize these wands as sticks with the potential to be set ablaze like torches. Think of a matchstick or the first spark of a creative inspiration. The creative fire that keeps us growing and going. And also consider how the fire can go out without fuel, or alternatively, how it can turn into a destructive force like wildfire if we don't control our passions, inspirations, instincts. So generally speaking, the matchstick is one of the best visualizations here, and it keeps it really simple and easy to remember. So since the suit of wands is associated with the element of fire, we also acknowledge the fire signs astrologically, which are Aries, Leo, and Sag. And we'll get into that in another video, but it's just, might be helpful to note that they are associated with the fire signs as well. So moving on to the next suit is the cups. And the cups are associated with the element of water. So cups are all about spirituality, feelings, dreams, empathy, intuition, healing, and emotional fulfillment, flowing like water. So visualize water in the chalice of Dionysus and dissolving our reality or a sense of separateness. Consider the tides that are bound to the cycle of the moon. These tides which affect us all, and consider how we are made up of mostly water, and consider how we too are affected by our environments. Considering how fluid or contained we can become, think of tears flowing, the fluidity of our boundaries. Think about our emotional perspective. Is the glass half full or empty or overflowing? How emotionally nourished are we? So consider the chalice and the reflection of water as a mirror of our emotional state of being. And here we would give a nod, to the astrological water signs, which are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And the diversity of how those different zodiac signs express themselves emotionally are definitely there within all of these water cards within the tarot. But that's something we'll get into at a later time. So the next suit is the swords, and the swords are associated with the element of air. So swords are all about logic, communication, swift action, mind over matter, cerebral clarity, and decision-making. Thoughts moving like air, arising. So visualize a sword cutting through the air, cutting through ignorance. And remember that words and attitudes can be sharp and cutting, and sometimes taking the steps to dissolve ignorance can be a painful process, as we have to face our own mind and sometimes realize that we have exacerbated whatever external suffering has occurred, through our own mental perspective or holding patterns. And so we seek that clarity from cutting through ignorance, cutting away the decay, and finding liberation of the mind, which of course is easier said than done, but nevertheless, that is, the goal of the swords. So astrologically, we think of all the air signs, and we consider, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and the different traits therein. So next we move on, finally, to the Pentacles. And the Pentacles are associated with the element of earth. So they're all about the practical wisdom, the pragmatic, the tried and true, material goals, stability, and material achievement. Stable as the earth. So visualize a coin. Money is an earthbound creation. Its value is only in what we give it. So within capitalism, it can be a measure of physical wealth, material stability, and speaks to the value systems that we've accumulated. And that's the easiest way to begin looking at pentacles. And of course, we can look outside of those systems into more nature, earth-centered symbols as measurements of these achievements and physical indicators of health and stability. But for now, we'll just stick with that. As the coin of, pentacles representing the earthbound element, as a reflection of our value system and what we've created. So consider in older times when we had to accumulate and all the things we had to accumulate to survive a winter. Physical goods, building a home on earth. The pentacles represent all that is earthbound and physical and material in nature. So these are accumulations of all kinds. They are, can be debts, wealth, health, karma. But let's just stick with the coin as a symbol of the material realm of earth. And then, of course, we go to the astrological associations, the earth signs, and so those are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. So it's important to note here that you'll only find the suits of wands, cups, swords, and pentacles within the minor arcana. And that although each card in the major arcana correspond to an element, which I can talk about in another video, the major arcana are not organized by the elemental evolution and royal hierarchy of a suit. The major arcana stand alone in their own group as archetypes on the journey of the soul or the journey of the fool towards enlightenment. So you can think of the suit's progressions as elemental pathways to enlightenment within that area of life. So as the number of the suit increases, so let's say the Ace of Wands all the way up to the Ace of Tens, to the Queen, the King. So as that number of the suit increases, we become closer to attaining the elemental wisdom within that suit. So for example, with the suit of Swords, which is associated with the element of air, we meet mental, cerebral challenges as we move up from 1 to 10. And as we meet these challenges, we have the opportunity to break through old holding patterns and gain momentum of awareness of mind. And as we continue to move up the ranks into the court cards, we attain intelligence, power of thought, discernment, greater mental discipline, and sovereignty over our thoughts and actions based on clarity of mind. So this evolutionary path of the swords is one of cutting through ignorance through intellect and mind training. We know that words and thoughts can cut and hurt, or they can liberate us from our suffering and help us to heal. It's all in how we wield the tool. So now it can be clearer to see the story that is told here within the swords cards, this evolutionary path. It is an elemental pathway to enlightenment within the area of life ruled by the element of air. That of the power of thought, intellect, and clear decision-making. And so, by grouping them into these pathways, it's much easier to understand how the Six of Pentacles is different from the Six of Swords. One is physical, and one speaks of thought, communication, and of the mind. So while you can spend a lot of time memorizing the meanings of each card by looking it up in the little white book that accompanies your deck, it's actually much easier to learn their meanings through first understanding the characteristics and the qualities within each suit or element. Learning how each element interacts with each other and how this affects the reading's meaning, which I can discuss in the next video, is so important. And from there, learning the numerological meanings of the cards. Just with those two things alone, you can really read the cards just with the element and the numerology, because especially with a deck like the Rider-Waite, you have a lot going for you in terms of what is showed to you on the cards. So you really save yourself a lot of time this way. So cultivating a deeper understanding of the elements and how they interact has far-reaching benefits beyond comprehending the tarot or astrology. If you just look at the power of traditional Chinese medicine, which has been around for a long time, and it's based on similar principles of elemental dynamics and interplay. So there's definitely something to elemental theories. The elements are really the key to becoming a more balanced reader, and it can really help you to fill in the blanks when you get stuck on card memorization. So now I'd like to move into 5 elements and introduce you to the concept of 5 elements. Traditionally, people teach tarot as a 4-element system, but I want to encourage you to see it as a system containing 5 elements. So it's fire, water, air, earth, and space. And if you look at the molecule and you go down to the atom, you'll actually find that there is more space than there is physical matter. Space exists as the container for all that is. And so, as a reader, consider yourself as that 5th element, holding space for the reading to occur. Consider the spaciousness it requires to empty yourself of your own bias, to truly be present for another person. So to create spaciousness, in order to honor the inseparability of all life, as readers, I think it is ideal to hold the intention of offering the perspective of the cards from a heart rooted in compassion. And when we make that shift to seek harmony amongst the elements in the reading, it's important to view ourselves as the 5th component within this element mandala. Because when we do this, it's a lot easier to remember that we are part of the work that must be done to harmonize these elements. And that extends far beyond the cards into our daily lives. Being present and staying clear takes practice and consistency. It's a life's work for anybody and everybody. And I feel it's an honor to read for someone and to sit with their vulnerability. And I feel strongly that it is our ethical duty to focus on emptiness and spaciousness so that we can hold that space for the reading. Cultivating this spaciousness is critically important in sustaining boundaries and in sustaining yourself in reading as well. And something that we can go into in another video at a later date. So there's definitely a lot to contemplate and digest here, but I hope this has been helpful for you. It's been several years since my last upload, and so much has changed, including my perspective on the cards and the stars. And, personally, I've shifted even further away from the mainstream ideology of tarot as a fortune-telling tool, which, to be honest, I never enjoyed or resonated with. I feel that old perspective creates a culture of fear around the cards and power imbalances with the reader and the person receiving the reading. And I think that can be a dangerous thing. I just want to say anyone can learn tarot, anyone can develop their intuition, and anyone can work towards their own liberation. I now see the cards and the stars as a mirror into ourselves, reflecting the residue and the imprints of all that has come before. The cards and stars show us how these residues and these imprints keep us in a holding pattern and how we can break free, the keys. So the power of the cards and the stars is in accessing that which lies under the surface of our own awareness. So by reflecting this in the cards and in a chart, we bring these residues and these imprints to the surface and have the opportunity to shift this awareness using mindfulness to best support ourselves on the path of liberation. So I hope you consider that as you read for others. If you found this lecture helpful, feel free to subscribe and comment, but please let me know what kinds of videos you'd like to see in the future, any questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer. And if this has shifted your practice, or you find yourself coming back to this video and you feel you would have paid for a workshop like this, feel free to donate through my PayPal link that's below. However, we're not all financially able to, so I completely understand. If you'd like to book a tarot reading or astrological consult or learn from me one-on-one via Zoom, you can visit my website, which is below in the description. I hope that you are keeping as well as possible in these difficult times. That's it for now. So please take care of yourself and check in on your friends and family during this pandemic. Thank you so much, and please take care.